All right, let's get right into it. As we look ahead to 2026, the story around MicroStrategy is not what you might think. It's not some big, flashy comeback narrative. Nope. It's something quieter. And maybe, just maybe, it's about whether the investment setup for the stock is now fundamentally stronger than it ever was before. Today, we're going to dig into the new, quietly bullish case for MSTR. So you're probably thinking, wait a minute, this stock got absolutely hammered in 2025. How on earth can we even be talking about a bullish setup now, right? It sounds completely backwards. And honestly, that contradiction, well, that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating to explore. Okay, so to really get the opportunity in 2026, we have to rewind the clock. We need to understand what the market was doing in 2025. And look, this wasn't just some gentle little dip in the road. This was a complete fundamental reset of the stock. And just to really paint the picture here, we are talking about a collapse. The stock went from the mid 400s all the way down to the mid 100s. I mean, just do the math. That's a massive drop. For anyone who was holding on, this wasn't a bad day. It was a brutal portfolio wrecking experience. But here is the absolute key thing to understand. This was not random market chaos. It wasn't just noise. No way. This was the market acting like a surgeon, deliberately and methodically cutting away all the fluff, all the speculative assumptions that had been baked into that stock price for so long. The message was loud and clear. So what exactly got cut? Well, basically everything that wasn't nailed down. That idea that the stock's premium over its Bitcoin holdings would just keep growing forever, poof, gone. That belief in endless growth from clever financial tricks? Yeah, that was out. And you know that pure momentum, that feeling that the stock could only go up? That just evaporated overnight. The market essentially said, we're done pricing in perfection. All that froth just got blown right off the top. And this is where the whole story starts to pivot. There's this great quote that just nails it. Bullish setups don't usually appear when confidence is high. They appear after doubt has already been expressed. Think about that. The best opportunities don't pop up when everyone's cheering. They emerge from the wreckage after everyone's already given up. So, in a strange kind of way, that awful 2025 crash was like a forest fire. It cleared out all the dead wood, making room for new, healthier growth. So what was left after that fire? Well, something fascinating. The whole investment story for MicroStrategy got simple, way, way simpler. Let's take a look at what this new, clear picture actually looks like. I mean, this really shows the before and after, doesn't it? The old story, the then, man, it was complicated. It was all tangled up in leverage, fancy financial footwork, and the speculative hope that the premium would keep expanding. It was a house of cards. But now, look at the now column. It's so much cleaner. It's really just about three things: their massive Bitcoin exposure, the performance of that core asset, and the actual stability of the company. That's it. Simple. And that's really the bottom line here. After all that craziness, after the repricing, Bitcoin itself is back in the driver's seat. The stock's performance isn't tied to some complicated story anymore. At the end of the day, it's trading much, much more closely to the real value of all that Bitcoin they're sitting on. And we're not talking about a small amount. Over 670,000 Bitcoin. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the anchor. That is the simple, powerful, solid foundation that's left now that all the hype has been stripped away. Which brings us to a really crucial part of the story. You see, while the stock price was in an absolute freefall, the company's actual financial structure, its plumbing, if you will, was going through an insane stress test. And the thing is, it didn't break. And this is how time itself becomes a huge asset. I mean, look at the progression. First, you just gotta survive the storm, right? The price crashes, but you're still standing. Check. Then, you have to prove you can pay your bills, meet your obligations. They did that. The dividends got paid, liquidity was fine. That proves the model actually works when things get tough. And every single time you do that, every quarter that goes by without a problem, you build credibility. You slowly erase that fear in the back of investors' minds that the whole thing could just collapse. And this idea is so, so important, but it's often overlooked. Time without failure is one of the most underappreciated forms of value creation. It's so true. For a complex financial structure, just not blowing up is actually creating real value. Every single day they operate smoothly, they're proving the skeptics wrong and de-risking the whole story. And this isn't just theory, okay? We saw this play out in real time. During the absolute worst of it, think about what didn't happen. There was no forced selling of Bitcoin. There was no liquidity crisis. Heck, they actually managed to raise capital in those tough conditions. Their dividend reserves held up, preferred stock dividends got paid. The entire system was put through a real-world stress test, and it passed. Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. You've got the huge price crash that wiped out all the hype. You've got the story becoming way simpler and easier to understand. And you have the company structure proving that it's rock solid. All of that, that's the foundation for this new, quietly bullish case. This right here gets right to the heart of it all. The old setup was priced for perfection. Absolutely everything had to go exactly right, or the whole fragile thing could fall apart. But the new setup, it's priced for caution. It doesn't need everything to go right, it just needs Bitcoin to be Bitcoin. And in this new world, simple stability actually works in its favor. So where does the attractive setup come from? Well, think about it. Is there as much narrative risk? Nope, the hype is gone. Is there as much structural fragility? Nope, it's been battle-tested. So what you're left with is a much more direct way to participate in Bitcoin's potential upside without constantly worrying about a shrinking premium. And maybe the best part, expectations are on the floor. And when expectations are that low, they are a whole lot easier to beat. And that brings us to the big final question. Now that all the hype and all the complex financial engineering have been burned away, the story is incredibly simple. MicroStrategy is a massive, resilient holder of Bitcoin. So as we look towards 2026, you really have to ask yourself, could this new, simple story actually be its strongest one yet?